Hello, everybody. It's Sunday night. The name of the show is Intuitive Inc., and this is Servet Hassan. I've got a really great show for you tonight again. A guest who I adore. I actually just don't know her that well, but she's a lovely lady. Her name is Janet Conner. She's a writer. She's written a book called Find Your Soul's Purpose. Discover who you are. Remember why you are here. Live a life you love. Who couldn't use that? We're going to talk all about that. But she's not only a writer, she's a soul community creator, a poet, and what I love, she is a self-proclaimed spiritual field guide, which I love that term, and we're going to find out exactly what that is. So welcome, Janet Conner. Hi.
Oh, Servet, it's just a pure joy to talk to you. I can just tell from your energy what your show is about. I love the name of it, Intuitive Inc. I mean, the second you sent the invitation and I saw the name, I said, I don't know anything about her. I don't know, but yes, yes, because I never thought to use that term. But all my books, everything I do, my daily deep soul writing, it's all intuitive and it's all in ink. So I'm thrilled to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're welcome. That's how I feel. It is, and it's coming from a different, higher, intuitive place. Because I really I think of intuition as a spontaneous reaction of our soul. It's something that's never wrong if you connect. It's our connection to the source or the divine, whatever you want to call it. So if you, and now I understand that this resonates with you, because when I started reading in your book, it was when you figured out, you stumbled upon how to activate a divine voice by slipping into the theta brainwave state while writing. And that is exactly what Intuitive Inc. is.
That's it.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so I knew just from the name of your radio show that we are sisters of intuition.
Exactly. And that truly is just like we have instincts that tell us how to breathe, and spontaneous reaction of our mind is breathing, sleeping, blinking, and spontaneous reaction of our soul is that. It's that our guide, our GPS almost. Our special divine guide. Okay, so Janet, tell me, how did you, besides slipping into this theta brainwave, what got you going? Because really, honest, your signature series is called Your Soul Wants 5 Things, and I read in your book how you came upon that. But why don't you tell the listeners how that happened?
Well, it does start with this godforsaken divorce back in the late 90s. Which nobody would wish on themselves or anybody else, any tragedy. I mean, who wants to say, oh, I want to experience bankruptcy. I want to experience a terrifying diagnosis. Nobody wants this. But invariably, when life clobbers you over the head, it is an invitation. And there actually is a beautiful Hafez poem that says, we are all invited, and there's 2 ways we can come: on God's stretcher or dressed for dancing. Well, I came on God's stretcher.
I love it.
And I can laugh about it now. I'm so grateful now. I'm actually on my knees in gratitude, because I was so frozen, so lost, so afraid that all I could do was sit in the living room with the blinds shut and cry. And my dog brought me my untouched copy of The Artist's Way. I read one paragraph about the fact that there is a source of wisdom within that you can access on the page, and that's all I needed. I didn't know it. I mean, this wasn't an intellectual experience. Right. It was just, well, hey, if Julia Cameron can access a voice of wisdom on the page, maybe Janet can too. And I picked up a pen. And because I had never read any books on journaling, I just did what my intuitive instincts, this spontaneous request of the soul, and I picked up a pen and I wrote, Dear God, comma, across the top of a page, which no journaling book will tell you to do, but I wasn't following any kind of. That was the door flying open. Do you know, it's a poem I adore. I don't know that it's in Find Your Soul's Purpose, but it has a tendency to kind of show up in everything I do. It's a Rumi poem, and it says, The door is round and open. People are going back and forth between worlds. Don't go back to sleep. That's what I was experiencing, only I had no name for it, because I discovered pretty quickly, it took me about a week of showing up for daily deep soul writing, that when I finished whining and fussing and telling my story, if I began to ask questions, it's all about questions. When I began to ask big questions, not whining, why me questions, but big questions, probing for the deeper meaning of what's going on, I would drop the pen sometimes because the wisdom, the beauty, the grace, the gentleness, the love of what was coming through my hand onto the page was so clearly nothing I wrote. So like a little Hansel and Gretel following the little breadcrumbs home, I just, each day I'd show up, I'd do my deep soul writing, a tiny little droplet of wisdom would come through, and I began to follow it. And here I am 20 years later, this was 1997, and I've been following now with sort of an understanding and an intellectual curiosity. Now I am studying the theta brainwave state. Now I am exploring those deep fields of the soul, dropping. I consciously do it. I'm going to drop through that round open door and experience the imaginal realm, the soul's realm, the divine fields of the soul. So day by day, little bit by little bit by little bit, my writing life began to evolve. Writing Down Your Soul came out in 2009. And one morning in January of 2011, I had just made my cosmic intention mandala for 2011. I had just made it, and it was only the second year that I had made one. That whole story is in The Lotus and the Lily. And I realized when I looked at it across the room, hey, I know what I did. I mean, it's a circle, right? A mandala is always a circle, and there's some kind of symbol of the divine at the center. And around it I had my soul conditions, the ways I want to live in order to create this beautiful life. And I stared at it across the room and burst out laughing because I had replicated the view of my Le Creuset flame Dutch oven, my heavy French Dutch oven that I had stood over through the entire month of December trying so hard. I was absolutely determined that I would be able to make a traditional Italian ragu bolognese. 5 or 6 attempts. Each one worse than the one before. I don't know quite why this Irish woman cannot make a decent Italian ragu bolognese, but I tried for the entire month of December. Fed it to my family, and they rolled their eyes and go, oh, please, try to make something else. So I recognized this, that it was sort of cream on the inside and various shades of orange on the outside, and I just started laughing. I think I'm just being funny. I walked over to my mandala, drew the little tiny orange, sorry, sneeze coming, handle.
Bless you. Yeah.
And I laughed out loud and I said to the divine, well, I guess this means you're the chef and I am the ragu. Make of me what you will.
Yes.
Yeah. Now this is a dangerous prayer. And of course, the best prayers of all are the dangerous prayers, right? What's the point of doing those little pussyfoot, please help me be safe and warm and, let's go big. But I didn't consciously, Servet, I didn't in any way, shape, or form realize what I was inviting. I thought I was being cute. So I wake up not too much later and clearly hear one morning in theta. Now, your listeners, this is an important thing to know. The theta brainwave state is available to us all the time. Every single time we are in deep soul writing, in meditation, in prayer, we can slip into the theta brainwave state. But every single one of us is naturally slipping in and out of the brain, the theta, which is the creative, the juicy brainwave state. As you're falling asleep, as your brainwaves slow down, you're there for a little bit before you fall into delta to sleep. And when you wake up, this is the juiciest, most creative time of the day, and most of us throw it away. we wake up to an alarm, we jump out of bed, and instantly we're in the beta beginning with B, like boy, which is the high stress, fast worry. The only brainwave state in which you can worry is beta.
Right.
But what do we do, right? We leap out of bed and we're thinking immediately, okay, I got to do this and don't forget this, and we're immediately into our to-do list, and we've left the juice, the solutions, the breakthrough thinking, the creative access, divinity, we've left it on the pillow.
Oh.
So when I learned a little bit about the theta brainwave state and mystical theta in particular, and those stories are all in my first book, Writing Down Your Soul. Once I discovered this, I realized, well, wait a second. Now, nobody told me to do this. It just made sense to me that if I am naturally rising into the theta brainwave state in the morning, what do you say I stay there? So I just began to lie in bed in the morning. And I could not leap out of bed. I just stay there, absolutely still, eyes closed. You're not awake, you're not asleep. Some people call it the hypnagogic state or the liminal state. And I just lie there. And that's where I hear the titles of my book. That's where I hear everything. That's where I know what I'm writing next. I can get edits for what I'm working on. It just comes. It just comes.
Right.
So I'm lying in bed. I'm not thinking. I'm not asking for anything. And I hear as clearly as if there's a little chorus of elves next to my bed. Your soul wants 5 things. What?
Yeah.
You sure about that? And I actually wasn't happy. I wasn't, because at that point I had worked so hard to create 4 courses. And I really, really just didn't think I had it in me to create a 5th. So this is a terrible thing to admit. But I came into this office and I worked on Your Soul Wants 4 things. I really did. I mean, what was I thinking, right? So the next morning, the little angels, the little elves, they're not so happy with me. And they screamed loud. Now, I'm perfectly still. My eyes are closed. But as soon as this started, I knew what was going on. I was like, oh, shoot. And they screamed, serve a purpose. Now, I really wasn't happy to hear this, because I knew that it is essential to know and love and serve your soul's purpose, because I was knowing and loving and serving mine. But I didn't know how to teach it, so I had never offered it as a course. I knew perfectly well what I was being told. And I squinched my eyes shut as if I could make them go away, right? Leave me alone. I don't want this intuition. I'm just going to crawl under the covers and pretend I'm not hearing this. And then the voices got very, very, very loving, very soft. Now my eyes are closed.
Right.
And my hands are under the blanket. And the voices said, look at your hand. And any listener can do this right now. Lift your left hand. Look at your left hand.
I'm doing it. Go ahead.
It's right there. We were born with this. We're carrying it. Your left hand is you, your soul's hand, and it has 5 fingers. And your right hand is your divine hand, or the symbol of. And so when you bring these 2 hands together, because your soul wants to connect with Source, your thumb on the left, and the divine is Source, the thumb on the right, and your soul wants to commit to values, well, those are divine values. Then your tall finger, your soul wants to serve a purpose. I mean, I did finally go, okay, I'll do it, but you have to show me how to teach this. And then your ring finger, your soul wants to express beauty. We are all creative beings. And your little finger, your soul wants to create life. So from that day on, Servet, I just obeyed. I mean, I didn't know how in the world all these books were going to get written and published, and the courses, I had no idea. But come on, how do you say no?
You don't.
How can you pop? You can't.
You don't. You can't. But initially, when you were in bed in the morning, by the way, science has proven, technically proven, that our brains are the most plastic in the morning. That's the best time for any kind of first thing.
For everything.
Before you put your foot on the floor. And that's when I meditate. I don't even dare put a foot on the floor without doing my meditation first thing in the morning. But what did they scream at you when they were screaming, the elves? You said
serve a purpose.
Serve a purpose. Okay.
Purpose. And that's, of course, this book.
Yes.
But it took me several years of teaching it and learning how to teach it.
Right.
And now I do offer 4 out of the 5 books are in print, and I do teach all the courses.
Right.
So wants 5 things. So, Jan, I had to. Now, Servette, I did come in here and say, okay, I'll do this. I will do this. But, you sure you got the right person? I mean, maybe Marianne Williamson isn't doing anything right now. Maybe you should check in with her. I actually said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. Because, and I think this is an important little piece for the people who are listening, because it's easy to listen to somebody who has 7 books out and a radio show and teaches all these courses and say, well, okay, you're living your soul's purpose, so hooray for you, but that's not true for me. Everybody, I think everybody always feels you're being, it's not exactly asked to do more. These invitations, these divine invitations can seem like, who am I?
Right.
Who am I,
Well,
to say to the world, hey, everybody, your soul wants 5 things.
Right.
I think it's a normal human reaction. You could label it humility on the positive side.
Well,
but I think in my case, I was just scared. It's like, Andrew Harvey, Marianne Williamson, really? Me with my one little book? You sure?
No, I get it. But here's the thing, though, too. I think, and this is what I got from your book, that your life purpose is not a goal. It's not something you go out and you get and you find and you have to find it and you have to get. It's not something you get. It's something you let. That's kind of what I got.
You are. You already are. You already are. You're just not conscious of it, and it's not your fault. Our Western education system, our corporate career systems are all designed very early in life to squelch that inner knowing. We very quickly drag our 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-old children who are naturally in the theta brainwave state for the bulk of the day. They're the most creative, juicy, divine beings, but we start putting flashcards in front of them in kindergarten. And so we shove them out of the creative brainwave state and into the production state. So you are of value when you have a goal. When you meet your goal, that's when you're going to get your degree. That's when you're going to get a raise. That's when you're going to get a job. We are so utterly conditioned to this measurement, performance.
Right. It's a doing state instead of being. Instead of being, they teach you, they unteach you to be, and they get you more involved in thinking and being, thinking and doing.
Doing.
Yeah,
and then they place
instead of
judgment and performance on it.
Right.
So now people have this assumption or feeling. Let's say you've been in a career for 15 or 20 years. And your soul is just dry, right? And you think, well, I missed my chance. I didn't fulfill my soul's purpose. I didn't know my soul's purpose. I still don't know my soul's purpose. I screwed up. I am missing the opportunity to succeed at this thing. And that's because we have such a limited view of it. Now, Servette, going into writing the book and walking the sacred spiral myself, none of this is made up out of my left conscious mind. These are all mystical experiences that I had And they started when I got the go-ahead to write this book from my publisher. I didn't really, I'd been teaching the course for a while, but I didn't really fully feel ready to write the book. But there's the publisher saying, okay, we want your next book. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, in perfect synchronicity, I was invited to go to the Kashi Ashram in Sebastian, Florida, and stay there in order to have a conversation with them about leading retreats there. I'd never been there. It's an interspiritual, absolutely magnificent space. Mm. So I go, and they put me in a room, and there's a little sign on the room, and it says, Yogi Ji. I don't think to ask anybody. I just, well, okay, there's a sign on the door, Yogi Ji. I walk in, gorgeous room, huge king-size bed, but about 4 feet away in a little sitting area is a large, bronze, maybe 4 foot tall statue of Shiva in a little altar-like looking setting with the cobra. And I went, I'm going to be sleeping across from Shiva. Wait a second. I don't think I'm ready for this. And so there was this little curtain, and I kind of moved it, and I said to Shiva, okay, now, I'm going to bed. You stay there, and I'm going to stay here. So, and I actually slept on my left side with my back to Shiva because I was a little scared. It's like, okay, I know who Shiva is because I do Kalinatha yoga. I was like, well, no. Well, Servet, that night, as I'm slipping into my dreams, I'm not asking for anything. I am in the spiral. I'm in it. I'm on it. I see it, what it's made out of. I can smell it. I can see everything around me. I can look down and see that there's 4 loops, and they get narrower and narrower, and they end in this almost like a hole where you step out of time. I'm in it. So the next morning, my friend that brought me there, and who was my first spiritual teacher, introducing me to the Native American way of teaching of the first people, and who introduced me to the goddess, she sees me sitting at the table, almost shaking as I'm trying to drink my coffee. She says, how are you? And I said, well, oh, and I'm drawing the spiral. I said, look, it's a spiral. You're in the spiral. I was in the spiral. And I'm just stuttering, trying to convey this incredible experience. And Charlotte says, Janet, what did you expect? You were in Yogi Bhajan's bed. I said, what? And I've been there since, and I'm always blessed to be put in Yogi Bhajan's bed. And I'm telling you, when you're with the guy who brought Kundalini Yoga to America, you're going to have the most glorious dreams. So what happened is once I was able to see that I could be inside the spiral of my dreams, when I came back to my house, I proceeded to have dreams every single night that I was writing this book. I saw everything. I saw the labyrinths. I saw exactly what happens in the guided meditations. And then all I had to do was use a little intuitive ink, put my hands on the keyboard, put my hands on my journal, and simply write what I experienced.
Wow. That's amazing because, yes, I could imagine if you were there in his bed, you would be yes, okay. Well, let's talk about that because people don't know. The thing about when you say, well, live your purpose, find your soul's purpose. They're like, well, I kind of know, or first of all, they either say they don't know at all, or they say, I can't live my soul's purpose. How will I make a living? Which, of course, I know is, not true. But what do you explain that, and also explain the spiral because.
Well, let's start with because the spiral is how you get there,
right?
So. But it's very important to look at this word purpose. And the number one thing I want to say, and say it over and over, is for most people, your soul's purpose is not in any way, shape, or form a job, a profession, or a career. And I learned this from Laura Lynn Bunn, the great master of the Akashic record. She's been training and doing consultations for almost 30 years. And I have many, many conversations with the masters and teachers. I never write a book without them. So long before I wrote this book, I was simply having a conversation with her, and she said, you know, Janet, because most people come to the Akashic Record wanting to know something about their soul's purpose, because that is, the Akashic Record is the library, so to speak, of all of your soul's experiences and all of its expressions in all lifetimes. So people always ask, what's my soul's purpose? And she said, after 30 years of doing this, at absolute most, probably less than 15% of people have a purpose that in any way could be perceived as a job. Now mine is, I, Janet Conner, use words to connect people to the light. That does kind of sound like somebody who might be writing and might be teaching and might be talking on the radio. But she said that's actually very rare.
Yeah.
But she said, if you do have a soul's purpose that has healing in it, or something that in some way feels, or it feels to you like a profession, then it's kind of non-negotiable. It's a little like my little chorus screaming at me, serve a purpose and your soul wants 5 things. Okay. But I've been teaching this now since 2011 and guiding people into the spiral, into the imaginal realm, stepping out of time to have this encounter with the divine. And remember, you're actually not finding it. You're remembering. And I know the title of the book says, Find Your Soul's Purpose, and I hope my publisher isn't listening, but we actually had an argument about the title. Because you're not finding it. When you say find, it looks like, well, it's hiding behind a bush, it's under a rock, and if I don't find the right rock, I've screwed this up. And I said it's really remembering. And remember is an essential word because it really means, if you hyphenate it, to hyphen member. You are shifting your members back to their original form. It's a medical term. So when we remember our soul's purpose, we are remembering ourselves back to our soul self, our divine self, our original, exquisite, perfect condition, our original state. But the publisher said, and I have to agree, they said if you put remember in the title's too long, it's got too many syllables, and it doesn't have that rhythm. Find your soul's purpose. That has a lovely rhythm. But if I say remember your soul's purpose, you kind of get lost. And I said, I agree, and you're the publisher, and you really know about books. But I need remember. So they said, okay, Janet, you can write the subtitle. Go ahead. So Janet got to write Discover Who You Are, which is a divine being, a soul.
Right.
Remember why you are here, which is your soul's purpose. And when you know those 2 things, guess what? You can't help but live a life you love.
That's right.
So, number 1, it's not a job. Number 2 is it's not one thing. It's a whole smorgasbord. I mean, it's really astonishing. I have this big whiteboard in my office, and as I was in these dreams and seeing everything on the spiral, I began to draw like a blanket, like a little kid when they want to run away from home, and they put their precious possessions in the little, like a hobo babushka, and you tie the knot. It's just sort of a standard image of, a kid running away from home, or at least it was when I was growing up. And I drew this great big, I said, my God, it's like a giant scarf, and then you put this in it, which is your gifts and your talents, and you put this in it, which is your ancestry, and you put this in it, which is your shadows. Your shadows and your struggles are magnificent parts of this. They're the friction you're going to rub up against. And it's when you have that's how you light the fire, right? Got to have that friction. They're gifts. They don't feel like it, but and you chose them. And then, yes, there is this, usually very short. For some people, it's as short as 2 words. There is this precious soul purpose. And you know what else is in there? Your teacher. You didn't come here alone. You came bringing with you And all the traditions talk about it. The Romans call it a genius. The Greeks called it a daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N. Mm-hmm. The Christians call it the Holy Spirit. Go ahead, pick a name, any name.
Right.
But the point is, you came carrying. And this is why Intuitive Inc. and everything you do, Servet, is so important. All we're doing when we activate our clairs, our invisible clairvoyance, divine seeing, right, clairaudience, divine hearing, etc., mm-hmm, all we're doing is opening ourselves to the wisdom and the grace and the beauty that our divine teacher has been putting in front of us our entire lives. Mm-hmm. So your soul's purpose is this. You might think of it as a basket. I sort of still like that image of it. It's this babushka that's filled with all these things. But the image that I saw in my dreams, mm-hmm, and so is in the book, is a seed, S-E-E-D. A seed, like an acorn. And the acorn knows how to grow, right, into a 1,000-year-old magnificent oak. It knows. Mm-hmm. Why? Because that's all inside. You are an oak, or any other image that you prefer. Right. And so everything you need to grow into this luscious, fruit-laden, magnificent tree that feeds you, mm-hmm, that feeds everyone you touch, mm-hmm, everyone who comes anywhere near you, and not just in whatever work you're doing. It's the people in the grocery store. It's the people in your soul communities. It's the people at the bank. Mm-hmm. Everyone that comes into your awareness. It's the listeners right now. Every single one of them are touched, blessed by the fruit of my tree, your tree, their tree, everybody's tree. This is who we really are.
Right. Well, speaking of listeners, we're already halfway through the show. So
doesn't seem possible.
I know. We are going to have you back, Janet. There's just too much to discuss. We haven't even gotten to the spiral yet. But I do want to open the lines up, because if we don't, we'll run out of time. It's 949-313-8880. If anybody out there has a question for Janet Conner about your purpose, or not your purpose, something else. She's very intelligent, very spiritual, has answers to many things, so you don't have to stick to just that. But feel free to call in and talk to her now, because we're honored to have her on the show. So this is awesome. Please call in 949-313-8880. One of the things you said in your book, too, Janet, is what every individual wants and what every spiritual tradition seeks, pretty much, is to be transparent to the transcendent. Yeah. So that's kind of what you were just talking about. And I like that. And it is not just one thing. Now, we didn't talk about the spiral, and I am going to come back to that. But are there in your book, the reason it's kind of you're a field guide, you said, like a soul field, and your book is very much like that, because I saw how in there you have tips and things that people like, getting a photograph of yourself, looking into your own eyes when you were a little child. I mean, I actually went and did that. And it's pretty amazing, because it was a picture of me in London in kindergarten. I just started, so maybe I was 4 years old. They start earlier in England. but I mean, and you know, it did something to me. So that was one of the things. And the other thing for people that may or may not know how to go on this journey to finding their purpose in life, was you talked about a story about Carl Jung and how he said, you know, what do I love to do to play? What did I do when I was young to play? And he used to move around stones, and then so later in life, his greatest life's work to him was building a tower of stone himself. By hand, right?
Isn't that the most? I mean,
I loved
when
it.
I read that he did this,
I
stumbled across the story in a Joseph Campbell book, Pathways to Bliss, and Joseph Campbell studied very, very closely.
Mm-hmm.
And I reread the paragraph several times. He did what? I mean,
I did too.
Really? And then the most amazing part about the story is, now this is Carl Jung, who we think of as being so attuned into his divine essence. He's teaching us about synchronicity. He's teaching us about deep psychology. He writes that it was the most profound place of his life, that this is where he did all his great writing and great thinking, but he didn't connect the dots. He didn't. He did not connect the dots back to playing with stones and building things as a child as an expression of his soul's purpose. He was already in the tower doing his great work and writing his books when he realized, oh, so he was carrying as a child this mystical metaphor of creating with rocks, with pieces. Look at what that man has built for us in the world.
Really?
Right?
Oh, yes.
Look what he built. So, yes, he played as a kid. Then he built this tower connected with his home in Switzerland. But then look at his legacy. The man built our understanding of the mystical realms.
Right.
So when I read that, I said to myself, because I always do, every time I teach a course, I'm doing it again and again and again. So I asked myself in Deep Soul Writing, well, what did I like to play with? What did I like to play with more than anything else? And a couple things came to mind, but number one was my holy cards. I raised very strict Catholic, and my brothers were trading baseball cards, and I and my girlfriends, we traded saints. We had holy cards. I don't remember even where you got them. I don't know that anybody has holy cards anymore. I had stacks of them. And I'd study the saints, and if I didn't like the saint, I'd trade that one away. It was just like baseball cards for me, and I loved them. And they had gold edges. I absolutely loved them. Now, here I am, remembering this, writing about it in Deep Soul Writing, and asking myself, well, if that was my favorite toy for years, what if Carl Jung's rocks were an early symbol of his soul's desire to create a psychological structure? What did my holy cards portend for me? So I'm sitting here doing my Deep Soul Writing, and I look around my office, and I am surrounded by books. I am surrounded by books on one topic, and that's mysticism. Mysticism, mystics, interspiritual, all traditions. Hafez is here, Rumi is here, Teresa of Avila is here. They're all here. And I burst out laughing. They're my holy cards.
Right.
They're my holy cards. I'm still playing with holy cards. They're just a little three-dimensional. And what do I then do with my holy cards? To use that metaphor, the love of my life is to introduce to other people that the mystical world is real. It's more real than this real world. Every one of us can step through that round open door. People are going back and forth between worlds. The mystics are going back and forth. The saints are going back and forth. The poets are going back and forth. Jung's going back and forth. Our divine teachers are going back and forth. I'm going back and forth. Let's all go back and forth. So I have a feeling now, just because I have an experience, then I write the books and I teach the courses and I say, okay, everybody, are you having that experience? What are you discovering about your favorite toys? And Servette, everybody has the experience you just described when they look into their own eyes as a child.
Right.
It is such a profound, and you fall in love with yourself, your soul self. Because she was pretty pure at 4, right?
Right.
She was present, despite
right.
all that was going on. Mm-hmm. She was still awake,
mm-hmm.
aware.
Mm-hmm.
Her soul was expressing herself. And so when you look in your own eyes, now I didn't understand this, I didn't, but in perfect synchronicity,
mm-hmm.
God bless Jung for synchronicity, a woman in this course a couple of years ago said, Janet, stop what you're doing right now and read The Heart's Code by Paul Pearsall. I didn't even know about this book. I didn't know who Paul Pearsall is. He's the guy that did the research on heart transplants, and that there is an energy force in the heart transplant that when the heart is put in a different person's body, it impacts, it changes the recipient's diet, the way they make love, what they're interested in reading, what they do, and he has story after story after story. There is no other explanation. So he began to do some very deep research. And he said when we look in someone's eyes, so now visualize you're looking in your own eyes, in your own pictures, but this is true when you look into anybody's eyes. And in America, we don't do this. We don't actually, you're allowed to look into the eyes of maybe your intimate partner. We really don't do this.
Hopefully.
Right. But it's such an intimate thing that we actually don't.
Some people don't.
We don't look deeply into one another's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look deeply into someone's eyes, you are sending, this is Dr. Pearsall's research, not Janet, an infrared love map. He calls it L energy. And so this love, this infrared energy, which they can actually track, goes from your eyes into the other person's eyes and returns to you. And in it, you are finding in the other person's eyes what is left of you in them. It's a mystical experience to look deeply into someone's eyes. So now, you get out your own photographs, and childhood in particular, and you look just slowly. I spent an entire afternoon doing nothing but sitting in my reading chair looking into my own eyes, because I was very blessed that in the 1950s my mother would take me, all of my 5 brothers and sisters, to a photography studio and have these large, 8.5 by 11 portraits taken. I am so grateful. I am so grateful. Because if you're looking at a small snap, and it's kind of a scene of, well, here we are on vacation, and here we are doing this, and here we are, it's kind of hard to see your eyes.
Yeah, it is.
But if you have the grade school pictures, or these childhood pictures, if your family had them taken, even if you can only find 1 or 2 of these, and you just sit, and you look deeply into your own eyes. This isn't about what's going on. It isn't about what you were wearing, although you might remember all those things. You just look with love deeply into your own eyes. And what you are doing is soul to soul, only it's the same soul. You are sending this infrared mystical love energy to your own soul in your own eyes. It's one of the most profound experiences of a lifetime.
It is. We're running out of time here. We're getting down to the last 10 minutes. I can't believe it. Well, if anybody out there does have a quick question, 949-313-8880. Janet Conner, who's written a book called Find Your Soul's Purpose, and we've been talking about it, and you do a whole series of workshops and courses on the 5 things your soul wants and finding, which are, by the way, for people listening out there, the 5 things are to connect, to commit, to serve, to express, and to create. Right? We all need to be doing some form of that. So how can people find you? Because I don't want to forget that. What is your website? I really want them to get your book.
The website is probably the best place to start because all the books, all the courses, a link to the radio show, it's all there. Okay. And my name is Janet, Janet, Conner, Conner. That's the only thing you have to remember, is to spell it with an E, Conner, JanetConner.com. And when you get there, on the home page, you can click and start playing with, well, let's look at the books, let's look at the courses, let's look at the courses that have been recorded. I always am teaching one live course. The next one coming up will be Express Your Soul's Beauty, the creativity course. But I can only, because there are 6 of them. Your Soul Wants 5 Things, but I have 2 creativity courses, one for writers, plug-in for writers, and one for the non-writers, Express Your Soul's Beauty. So I have 6 of these very detailed, mystical courses. So obviously I can only teach live once a year. But then they're all recorded and they are available. Like Writing Down Your Soul, I taught that in January, but a person can pop onto the website and purchase the on-demand version. Everything is there. All the classes, all the bonuses, everything. Now, is available on demand.
Now, do you do that one that you do a year that's recorded? Do you do that live in person, or do you do that live on the Internet?
It's got to be live on the Internet because the readers are everywhere in the world.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So it's on, I use a platform called Zoom. It's a video platform, and so we can even see one another and talk to one another around the world. It's wonderful. It's as close as you can get to actually physically being somewhere. But if I go to New Zealand, then I'm not seeing the people in Japan and India and Australia and Canada. So I have discovered that, and I think an awful lot of people are discovering that rather than travel to be with a few people, teach on the Internet, live, when you can, and then so it's all recorded, and it has that same exquisite energy. And I think it's because what we're talking about, when you look into one another's eyes.
Right.
And so when people share, and we share such intimate soul-level discoveries, and we create this container, and we talk about creating a beautiful container to listen to one another. And we look deeply into one another's eyes as they're telling what they experienced on the loop, remembering their birth, and what they experienced learning to use their divine eyes, and what they experienced remembering their soul's purpose, and all of those. So we get to really put into practice this way of blessing one another by looking deeply into one another's eyes, soul to soul.
Absolutely. And that is your purpose. Your purpose is to connect people to the light, and you can do that anywhere. You do, and like you said, you'll reach more people. That's the wave of the future now. I truly believe that I'm glad you're doing them online, because it's expensive for other people to travel too.
To travel.
You know, it is.
And then you can only, maybe you're together for a week if you can take a whole week's retreat, but otherwise they're usually just a long weekend. That is not enough time to walk the sacred spiral. That's not enough time to remember your soul vows.
Right.
My experiences are these maps. They're mystical maps, my books and my courses, where I'll take you by the hand because I'm the field guide, but it's you that discover your soul vows. It's you that discover your soul's purpose. It's you that express your soul's beauty. That's not a weekend experience. That's taste by taste, breadcrumb by breadcrumb, following the map. So I'd much rather teach in this way, giving people 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, taste by taste by taste, than to travel somewhere and only get to see them for a weekend.
Right, exactly. Now, what are you working on your next book, the last in the series, right?
Well,
bring that up.
In my life, especially since the Divine Feminine, my teacher, Sophia, showed up, we're moving really fast. Sometimes I have to say, excuse me, how many books are you planning on me writing this year? The ideas just come full speed ahead. Yeah. So yes, within the series, Your Soul Wants 5 Things. The first 4 are available, Writing Down Your Soul, Soul Vows, Find Your Soul's Purpose, and The Lotus and the Lily. So that leaves, and I will finish the series, Express Your Soul's Beauty. And it's a very unusual creativity course. And I'm actually getting ready to teach it live. It opens on August 9th, so your listeners might enjoy popping over and looking at what that's all about.
Right. It starts
So that
August.
will be the next book, I promise. But
right.
It's in process, so this I can't give you a pub date.
No, that's
okay. But then there are other things coming. There are many other things coming. And so if the listeners would like to kind of keep track of what's going on, because there's a lot going on. Once you start exploring the fields of the soul, there's a lot of mystical juice. While you're at my website, JanetConner.com, sign up for my newsletter. And I decided to stop calling my newsletter a newsletter because that's boring. It's Notes from the Field, because those are the fields of the soul. So sign up for my Notes from the Field.
I like that. I used to call my newsletter Memos from My Higher Self. So that was my blog for I promised I would do that once every day for 1 year, and I did. I did Memos from My Higher Self every single day for 1 entire year. So that's
impressive. I write one. I almost said newsletter. One note from the field every Sunday. They come out on Sunday.
Well, these were short. Some of these were pretty short, but they truly were memos from my higher self, which is what your notes from the field are going to be. They're going to be coming from the source, not from your own ego mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
They show up in my daily deep soul writing. And it's pretty non-negotiable. And then I say to Sophia, okay, we'll go do this. And I write it with divine guidance and put it out every Sunday.
I know. Now we didn't even get to talk about the spiral, because that is where the core of everything sort of in the book, at least that was my opinion, is that to enter into any of these things, you have to be able to get the world as a spiral. And you talked about even looking at a rose as a spiral. Everything kind of spirals. Can you? Well, gosh, you only have like a minute or two, but
I can do it in one sentence,
okay,
and it came from Francine Hart, the great expert on sacred geometry, because inside that dream, it's a spiral. So I began to do some research on the spiral, and I went to her sacred geometry oracle deck, and she says, and this is all you have to know about the spiral is the sacred geometry life form of all life. Look up at the galaxy, look down at your DNA. Everything is a spiral. The spiral is the accelerator of consciousness. You want your consciousness to expand?
Yes.
Get on the spiral. And the spiral will do it for you. And so all my book does is say, okay, here's the spiral loop number 1. Let me walk with you. Here's what's going to happen. Let's walk together. Enjoy the adventure. Here's a guided meditation. And the accelerator of consciousness, that's what expands your consciousness.
Well, there you go, because I do think, and even history spirals. Everything's,
Everything spirals.
It does.
And the spiral in my book is a perfect Fibonacci spiral. And there's a little hidden link in my book that says, go here, and when you go there, you get the spiral, and you can cut it out and play with it. I have it on my whiteboard. I play with it all the time.
Oh, good. Oh, my God, Janet. All of this from a bolognese that didn't come out right.
Right. Looks like you're the chef and I'm the ragu. Make of me what you will. And the divine said, okay, honey, here we go.
I know. I mean, I love it. And you did. You were off and running. So, God, look at that. This has been a fascinating hour, if you can believe that. It's been an hour already. Not that it's fascinating, but I mean, I can't believe we've talked this long. And I didn't get to everything, and we will have you back because we must. I mean, this is before the...
Consider it done. I'll chat with you and your listeners anytime, because we are walking the same mystical path. We are all exploring the fields of the soul.
And the mystical, like you said, your purpose, or one of your purposes, is to connect people to the light. And I think of one of my purposes because when I read your book, I thought, okay, what is it, Servet? Let's, really dig deep. And mine, I think, is what I've been working on for my whole life is to take the mystical out of mysticism for people so that it's not such a woo-hooey thing. It's really real.
It's who we are. It's normal.
It's who we
this
are.
is actually the normal life.
Yes, and so when you take the mystical out of mysticism, it just becomes normal. It is normal. Actually, it's more normal than what people think is normal. So that's what I'm all about.
Because you're a soul.
Yeah.
Teilhard de Chardin said it so clearly. We are not human beings trying to have spiritual experiences. We are spiritual beings, souls, having a human experience.
Absolutely.
So the mystical realms is home. This is who we are. It's the human experience that we kind of go, well.
That's the other way around. So that's my journey. That's what I'm about, is to help people understand that is who you really are. Not this human thing. You think your body, your mind, you have a body, but you're not your body. You have a mind, but you're not your mind. So that's where I go. Anyway, this has been absolutely fantastic. So again, I'm going to spell your name because it's Janet, like Janet, Janet, but Conner is Conner. And you can find out everything you need to know about Janet Conner with an E-R, at janetconner.com. And I encourage everybody out there listening. I know we didn't get any callers tonight, but then I get like 500 emails tomorrow or text messages. I should have asked her this. I should have asked her that. But you can always go to her website and get those answers, or you can contact me at servethassan.com, and I will connect you to her. But this is
wonderful.
This information is in your writing. So thank you very much. I know you're calling from Florida. It's late there. I so appreciate it, and I appreciate you being on tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Servet. It was just a pure joy.
I loved it. We're going to do it again. And you have a really good night. Thank you. Take care. Bless you. Bye. What a great show.
Well, hooray. Yeah.
You take care of yourself, okay? And we'll have
now,
you back.
When is the show available to listen to? I say how you post them on YouTube.
I am. It takes a few days, but usually you'll get a link and it'll be up on YouTube. Listeners are still listening. It'll be up on YouTube probably sometime next week, like Wednesday or Thursday. And I send
me
an
email.
And I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You take
Bye-bye.
Good night. I love that. She's wonderful. She's such a lovely person. Anyway, again, Janet Conner, JanetConner at janetconner.com. Find your soul's purpose. There's so much information in there. We didn't get to it all. I hope to have her back very soon. And we will, actually. And for me, it's ServetHassan.com, ServetHassan.com. I really shouldn't hesitate over my last name. I should remember that, right? But that's it, ServetHassan.com. I am coming up with all new things for after the summer. There's a lot of retreats that'll be going on, things I'll be doing online. Tons of new stuff coming up. Stay tuned. But in the meantime, be you to the full, because that is what truly is beautiful, and that's what guides you to your soul purpose. Because when you connect to your authentic self, your real self, you naturally fall into that place of mysticism, because that's who you really are. And when you're true to you, all kinds of great things happen. So stay tuned for another great show next week. I have an author called Ann Tucker on. She's written a book called Undoubtedly Awesome, which is what you are. Be you to the full, but also you're undoubtedly awesome, according to Ann Tucker. So we'll talk about that next week. Thanks for joining me. And stay clear, stay happy, and be you to the full. That's what's truly beautiful. Good night. Take care.